buried under centuries of vegetation, forgotten by history, denied by colonial scholars. A massive stone palace complex that proved African kingdoms built architectural wonders long before Europeans arrived. Ibrahim Traoré didn't just discover ruins. He discovered proof of a conspiracy to erase African greatness. December 2025. The helicopter descended through morning mist over the dense forest of southwestern Burkina Faso, near the border with Côte d'Ivoire. Ibrahim Traoré sat in the passenger seat, studying satellite images on a tablet. The images showed something unusual: geometric patterns beneath the jungle canopy, visible only through advanced ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging. The patterns were too regular to be natural, too structured to be random. The discovery had begun 3 months earlier, when a Chinese satellite mapping company, contracted for infrastructure planning, flagged an anomaly in their data. The thermal signatures suggested massive stone, structures buried beneath vegetation. Initial analysis estimated the site covered over 15 hectares. But there were no records of any settlement in that area. No archaeological surveys, no historical documentation. According to official maps, it was empty jungle. It had always been empty jungle, except the satellite data said otherwise. Traoré had authorized a preliminary ground expedition, a small team of archaeologists and engineers. What they reported back was stunning. The structures weren't just large, they were architecturally sophisticated. Carved stone blocks weighing several tons, fitted together with precision. Multi-story construction, elaborate water systems, and most intriguingly, inscriptions in an ancient script that predated European contact by centuries. Now Traoré was coming to see it himself. The helicopter landed in a clearing that had been cut by the advance team. As he stepped out, the lead archaeologist, Dr. Fatoumata Diarra, approached. She was a specialist in West African history from the University of Dakar, and her face showed a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Mr. President," she said, "what we've found here, it changes everything." They walked through the jungle, following a newly cut path. After 20 minutes, they reached the site, and Traoré stopped, staring. Rising from the earth, partially cleared of vines and soil, was a stone wall. Not a simple barrier, but an architectural masterpiece. The wall stood over 8 meters high in places, constructed from massive granite blocks, each one carved with geometric patterns and symbols. Beyond the wall, more structures emerged: collapsed towers, the remains of courtyards, staircases leading to underground chambers. Dr. Diarra led him to what appeared to be the main entrance. 2 enormous stone pillars flanked a gateway, topped with a carved archway depicting human figures, animals, and celestial patterns. "This," she said, pointing to the figures, "shows a coronation ceremony. And based on the clothing, the symbols, the artistic style, this predates European contact by at least 300 years. We're looking at a 15th or 16th century structure, maybe older." Traoré walked through the gateway into what had once been a grand courtyard. The floor was paved with fitted stones, many still intact. Columns lined the perimeter, some standing, others toppled. In the center was a raised platform with steps leading up to it, likely a throne area or ceremonial space. But what struck Traoré most was the scale. This wasn't a village. This wasn't a tribal settlement. This was a palace, a seat of power, evidence of a sophisticated, organized kingdom. Dr. Diarra continued, "We've identified at least 20 separate structures so far: living quarters, administrative buildings, what appears to be a library or record-keeping facility, storage areas, and extensive water management systems, aqueducts, cisterns, drainage channels. Whoever built this had advanced engineering knowledge." She led him to a partially excavated building. Inside, The walls were covered with inscriptions. "This script," she said, running her hand carefully over the carved symbols, "is similar to scripts found in ancient Mali and Songhai texts. We're still translating, but preliminary readings suggest these are historical records, laws, trade agreements. This was a literate society with written governance." Traore studied the inscriptions silently. Then he asked, "Why is there no record of this place? Why don't the maps show it? Why hasn't anyone documented this?" Dr. Diarra's expression darkened. "That's the troubling part. We did find documentation, not in African sources, but in European colonial archives." She pulled out a folder containing photocopies of old documents. "These are from Portuguese explorers in the 1580s. They mention encountering a great stone city ruled by a powerful king in this region. They describe the architecture, the organized government, the wealth. But here's what's disturbing." She showed him another document. This is from a French colonial administrator in 1897. He references the Portuguese accounts and explicitly orders that no mention of the ruins be included in official maps or surveys. His reason? Quote, "Evidence of advanced pre-colonial civilization contradicts the narrative of African primitiveness essential to justifying our civilizing mission." Traore read the document slowly. The words were blunt, damning. The French colonial government had known about these ruins, and they had deliberately hidden them. "So this place," Traore said quietly, "was erased, not physically, but historically. They buried it with silence." "Exactly," Dr. Diarra confirmed, "and it worked. For over a century, this site was forgotten. Locals in nearby villages have legends about old stone buildings in the forest, but they didn't know the significance. The jungle reclaimed it. And colonial history books wrote, Africa as if places like this never existed." Over the next 2 weeks, Traore authorized a full archaeological expedition. International experts were invited, historians, archaeologists, engineers, to ensure credibility and prevent accusations of fabrication. The team worked methodically, excavating, documenting, preserving, and the discoveries kept coming. They found a throne room with walls covered in gold leaf, most of it looted long ago, but traces remained. They uncovered a library containing stone tablets with inscribed texts protected from decay by the dry conditions underground. They discovered an astronomical observatory, a stone platform with markers aligned to track solar and lunar movements with remarkable precision. But the most significant find came from the underground chambers. Beneath the main palace structure, the team found a sealed vault. Breaking through the entrance revealed a storage room filled with artifacts, bronze sculptures, ceramic pottery, iron, tools, glass beads, and, most importantly, trade goods from across the ancient world. There were Chinese porcelain fragments dated to the 1400s, Venetian glass beads, Indian Ocean cowrie shells, and Arabian silver coins. This wasn't an isolated kingdom. This was a hub in a vast international trade network connected to markets across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, centuries before Europeans claimed to have opened Africa to the world. Dr. Diarra stood in the vault, holding a Chinese porcelain shard. This proves direct trade links between West Africa and East Asia in the 15th century. The narrative we've been taught, that Africa was isolated, primitive, waiting for European contact to join global civilization, is completely false. These people were trading with the world while Europe was still emerging from the Middle Ages. Traore asked her to prepare a comprehensive report, but he also made another decision. He ordered the site open to the public and international media. He wouldn't allow this discovery to be suppressed again. On January 15, 2026, Ibrahim Traoré held a press conference at the ruins. Journalists from around the world attended. Cameras captured the massive stone structures, the inscriptions, the artifacts. And Traore spoke directly to a global audience. Behind me stands evidence of what African civilizations built 500 years ago: advanced architecture, written language, international trade networks, sophisticated governance. This is not speculation. This is stone and mortar. These are inscriptions and artifacts. This is proof. He held up a copy of the French colonial document ordering the site hidden. And this is proof of why you never heard about it. Colonial powers didn't just exploit Africa physically. They exploited us historically. They erased our achievements so they could claim we had none. They buried our past so they could justify stealing our future. He paused, letting the weight of the statement settle. For generations, African children have been taught that their ancestors contributed nothing to human civilization. That Africa was a blank slate until Europeans arrived. This lie has damaged our identity, our confidence, our sense of possibility. But this site, and thousands of others across Africa that have been ignored or hidden, proves that lie wrong. Traore gestured to the palace behind him. Whoever built this palace was not primitive. They were sophisticated, powerful, connected to the world. They were our ancestors, and their story belongs to us. We are reclaiming it, we are teaching it, and we are ensuring that no future generation grows up believing their history started with colonization. The response was immediate and global. The ruins became a UNESCO World Heritage Site within months. Universities sent research teams. Textbook publishers began revising African history curricula. And tourism to the site exploded. Millions came to see proof that African greatness predated European conquest. But there was also resistance. Some Western academics questioned the dating, suggested the site was overhyped, or argued it was an exception rather than the norm. Conservative media outlets called it political archaeology, claiming Traore was manipulating history for nationalist purposes. Traore responded by opening the site to independent verification. Test the stones. Carbon date the artifacts. Bring your own experts. We have nothing to hide because the evidence speaks for itself. If you find proof we're wrong, publish it. But if you find proof we're right, and you will, then have the integrity to admit that African history is deeper, richer, and more significant than you were taught. The verifications came, and they confirmed everything. The palace was real. The dating was accurate. The trade networks were documented. The evidence was irrefutable. 1 year after the discovery, a documentary film crew visited the site. They interviewed Dr. Diarra, now leading a permanent research center at the ruins. She stood in the restored throne room and reflected on the discovery's impact. For so long, Africans have been told to look to Europe or Asia for examples of great civilizations, to admire their palaces, their monuments, their history. Now we can look at our own. This palace is ours. This history is ours, and it changes how we see ourselves. The film crew also interviewed a local teacher who brought her students to the ruins every month. I tell them, she said, that their ancestors built this. Not foreigners, not colonizers. People who looked like them, spoke languages like theirs, lived on this land. And if our ancestors could build palaces, govern kingdoms, and trade with the world 500 years ago, imagine what we can build today. For Ibrahim Traoré, the palace ruins became a symbol of something larger than archaeology. They became proof that Africa's story didn't begin with victimhood, that before there was colonization, there was greatness, that before there was exploitation, there was achievement. In a speech at the African Union 2 years after the discovery, Traoré used the palace as a metaphor. They tried to bury our history under jungle, under lies, under silence. But history, like stone, doesn't disappear just because someone tries to hide it. It endures. it waits, and eventually, it emerges. The palace we found is not just about the past, it's about the future, because a people who know their history can't be convinced they have no future. The ruins that were hidden for 500 years had exposed a lie, and in doing so, they revealed a truth. Africa's greatness wasn't granted by outsiders, it was built by Africans, and it can be built again.